right. We're here with Josh Plue, who is sitting on the county council right now, actually sitting on the love seat, and is running for county council for in the primary election. I almost said in November, and then I almost said in May. No, that's not happening. Okay, so Josh, go ahead and introduce yourself, kind of where you live, kind of a little bit of family, what school you went to, memberships,
Absolutely. So, Josh Plue, I currently sit as the president of the county council. Been there for the majority of the first term here. I live in Burlington, Indiana, wife and 4 children. Oldest is 14 and youngest is 3. So we are in the Carroll school system, and we'll be there for about the next 9, 10, 12 years, something like that. So grew up in southern Carroll County in Clay Township, went to Rossville schools, and graduated, went to Purdue, and came back, and love being here in the community and serving both in the county government and in multiple volunteer efforts. Co-founded a nonprofit last year called the Rural Innovation Network that helps to upskill workers and pre-skill and give opportunity to students. Sit on multiple appointments, and really am passionate about giving opportunities to rural citizens.
And so did you get a degree from Purdue?
My studies there were in selling and sales management, and I just recently started back at Purdue as an employee, and then so started in November. I'm the director of outreach for the School of Mechanical Engineering, and that field of study is interesting to me, and doing a lot of work there to continue to give opportunities to rural communities. That's how I was aligned with them through my work on the Rural Innovation Network. And that work that we're doing there is in the augmented virtual reality space, so that we can bring learning opportunities like, a couple of examples would be like welding and skilled trades opportunities, manufacturing opportunities. We can bring those to smaller communities virtually that can't get those training resources because of training sizes and things of that nature. So it's been an interesting ride with Purdue over the last 20 years or so.
Mm-hmm. So you're running for county council again.
Absolutely, yeah.
Why? Why would you want to do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. The biggest thing I feel is that Carroll County has given a lot to me. I grew up here, lived here, almost my entire life, except for when I was at Purdue, and it's been something that I want to give back to, and I think that the county has a tremendous amount of resources, a tremendous amount of potential, and just want to continue to give opportunities to everybody. In my role at the county council, our job is more fiscal and maintaining sensible budgets, maintaining a sound financial position for the county is the bedrock for future investment in the county. Businesses that look to locate in Carroll County are going to want to know that they're going to make sound investments here, and that the county government is run well from a fiscal perspective, and they aren't going to have explosions of tax rates or things of that nature that would be detrimental to their business. So in my capacity now, that's how I serve, and happy to do so.
Mm-hmm. If you had one thing to change in the county council, what would you do? What would you change?
What would I change?
Or county government, I guess we could expand it to that.
Oh, that's a great question. There's a lot of positive things about county government. This COVID-19 response has been like a real eye-opener for me personally. I've had, questions and calls repeatedly from people that have just, you know, found themselves in difficult positions and have reached out to me and fortunately have been able to align them to resources to help them with some of the struggles that they're having, you know, in this unprecedented time here. But the thing that I think that we could really benefit from looking forward is just more planning. We've really tried hard over the last 3 years since I've been on the council to look forward and not be reactionary. And we started in on a comprehensive financial plan. We've started looking at, you know, how we can make infrastructure investments in the future, and all those things are just really critical to the development of the county and to give people opportunity. So the more that we look to the future, the more that we invest in those plans and then actually execute on those plans, the better off the citizens of the county will be.
So, what do you think the state of the county is right now? Like, how, you know, fiscally, as it relates to, you know, the county council.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've heard you say in 2 or 3 meetings that we're on sound financial feet.
Mm-hmm.
Can you expand on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple metrics for how you would establish the financial health of a county, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of important ones are your operating balances, and so that gives you stable cash flow. So, for example, most of our accounts, for example, the general fund and the highway department, which is the vast majority of our spending,
Mm-hmm.
we maintain at least a 50% cash operating balance in those, and that gives us the ability to pay our bills while tax revenues are delayed, or I mean, while tax revenues come in.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at this year as a great example, you know, the tax bills, which are normally due on May 15th, have been extended to July 15th.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were counting on that money being there to pay your bills on May 16th, you're going to be in a difficult position, and that money that we have put into those operating funds to be able to operate smoothly and pay our deputies and pay our first responders and keep all of our services open during these you know, crisis times has been very critical. A second key component to fiscal health is our rainy day surplus, and we have been very disciplined in maintaining that cash balance, which currently sits at $2.6 million, on a general fund operating budget of approximately $8 million. So you're looking at about 32.5% that we keep in that rainy day fund.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, this is no different than, you know, a household budget where you want to keep money back for some period of months, and in case of a financial crisis, that money is intended to help us supplement and not have to fire police and first responders and downsize governmental services in a major economic downturn, you know, which we may be in at this current time. And it's been through years of diligence and you know, making hard decisions and working hard at putting out quality, balanced budgets that's put us in the position that we are today.
Mm-hmm.
And the third note there, that I'll just add as a caveat, is the county currently today has no debt. I'll put 2 footnotes on that. We are considering a jail project, or we're in the midst of a jail project right now, and the RDC, that's the entity that oversees our TIF district, carries debt, which the county then signs for. But both of the RDC is in a very good financial position and has high cash reserves, so I consider that low risk. But in terms of actual debt that the county is obligated to, we have none at this time.
So I think you should talk about the jail project,
Absolutely.
because others before you today have.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a good measure of how what your limits are.
That's great.
I've talked before with other candidates about raising taxes. Are they willing to do that? You know, are they supportive of the jail? You know, that kind of thing. So, and you know, I don't need to ask a bunch of questions. I think you can talk.
Okay.
So go.
No, I mean,
Go
this
with that,
I'm
yeah.
glad you brought this up, because I mean, this is
It's the
the
big one.
largest financial obligation that I can think of that the county's ever put itself into. And so I think that it's prudent to go back to the why, to start there. So in 2018 and into 2019, jail populations rose into the low 60s. I believe 64 was the number, but we can look into that to the exact.
I mean, the number of prisoners?
The total number of inmates incarcerated. It was in excess of 50, and I'm pretty sure it got into the low 60s at some time.
A couple of times maybe,
Yeah.
yeah.
On a jail that was built in 1984 and has a bed capacity of 37. Because of the regulations that the state puts us on, the jail is considered full at 80%, and that gives us the ability to segregate female prisoners from male prisoners, violent criminals from non-violent criminals. There's a number of different segmentations that have to occur there. So that 80% of the 34 puts us down at 27 inmates, approximately 27 inmates that the jail can hold. So at many times during the last 2-year period, the jail population was about twice what it is. And we've at times had, a very large number in the jail, and we couldn't get prisoners to go other counties to take our prisoners. And then, but currently, we do not have that problem. Currently, I believe we're sitting around that 27 figure, 27 to 30, but it fluctuates from week to week.
But what about the cost? What about the county's ability to actually
Absolutely.
support that financially?
No, that believe me, we'll get there. I wanted to talk about the why, because we're not building a very, very large, expensive building because we just want a big new building. There are serious consequences potentially to not having those folks there if we were brought into litigation. We also have an aging building that's going to have to, even if we didn't build a new jail, we would have to put significant investment into that building. So in either capacity, we have a large, very large commitment in our future to figure out this jail problem. And with the trend line on jail populations across the state and across the country, this jail situation is is my perception that it will continue over the next decade or more. I did bring a couple notes on this just for so I had the numbers exactly right. When we had when we originated this discussion, the figure that was presented to the council was $12.5 million jail, and then it would take about $2 million of soft costs. So the total project cost was not to exceed $14.5 million. Now, that discussion was taken up by the commissioners. There was a motion made, and their motion was that the jail would not exceed $14.5 million. So the council began planning based on that figure. The jail tax that was instituted in 2018, it began in 2018, raises exactly $76,465 a month currently, which nets about $917,000 a year. The jail, if we were to build it per our plan, and it was $12.5 million of debt service, and there'll be a small footnote there to say that if you borrow $14.5 million, that doesn't mean you get $14.5 million. There are deviations, but those calculations take forever to walk through. And, but we'll just work in those raw numbers right now. That debt service on $12.5 million, and that would be essentially, we paid $2 million, borrowed $12.5 million. That debt service would be $908,000 a year. So under the our current revenue that we're collecting to pay for this jail project, we could pay the debt service. Now, recently, the last update that we received from Elevatus Architecture and Jack Kraus, the construction manager of the both were retained by the commissioners. They had thrown out a number of $14.5 million for the construction costs and an additional $2 million of soft costs, putting the total project at $16.5 million. And so with that figure, if we were to borrow $16.5 million, that debt service, that debt obligation would be $1.2 million per year. And if we were to do that same ratio and or not same ratio, but if we were to spend that, or if we were to pay the $2 million like we did in the previous example, the debt service on that $14.5 million that was borrowed would be $1,054,000 a year. So that would leave us at a deficit from our revenue that we're currently getting at, $130,000, $140,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
I said, from the beginning, that we were not going to raise any more sales tax, excuse me, we were not going to do any more income tax, and I will not support any new income tax to pay for the jail project. So, this is going to be an ongoing conversation with commissioners. The current coronavirus really complicates the jail issue for a multitude of reasons. Mainly that our county income tax revenue is in all likelihood going to take a dramatic hit. And so just to kind of quantify the numbers, our county workforce is about 10,000 people. It's 99 or 9885 is our total employee workforce. So in the month of April, approximately 1,000 people filed for first-time unemployment benefits. So not all of it's a complicated calculation, not everybody stays on, but I think a very conservative forecast would say that we're in the 6 to 10% unemployment today, and this situation has not indicated that it's gonna go away in the immediate future. I'm hopeful, but there are definite revenue challenges that are coming down the pike.
And so how will you deal with that if reelected?
Yeah, absolutely. This is where we're going to have to make hard decisions about fiscal responsibility. And I promised and I will promise that I'm not going to raise taxes to build a new jail. We're going to have to, we will not know until August what our certified revenue figures.
Property or income? Any tax? You will not raise what kind of taxes? Property tax or income tax?
I don't want to raise any taxes. I will not raise, I guarantee I will not vote to raise income taxes. If it was a sales tax, or not sales tax, excuse me, if it was a property tax issue, we would have to look to existing property taxes that we have put into the budget in other areas to reallocate for the jail project would be my intention.
And so you would reduce services from what you have right now. Is that what you're saying?
Well, we would have to look into, my hope would be to not reduce services, but.
Well, yeah, but,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're reallocating, that's another way, that's code for.
Yeah, there are opportunities to put capital improvement funds, for example, the QCAP fund, that we could put those dollars that are being collected currently for capital projects and reallocate them to the jail project. That would be my preference. And I believe that generates currently about $333,000 a year. I don't have that number in front of me, but I think that's pretty close.
Do you think the jail's going to get built this year?
I really don't. I mean, that's
You're not the first one to say that to me today.
I really don't know. I mean, that's really not in my
Oh,
my
you
control.
don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, that's the ultimate responsibility of the commissioners, and you know, our job is just to make sure that everything's done in a fiscally responsible manner.
However, it impacts the council
Oh, for
because
sure.
it's costing money. I mean, you know, there were claims at the last council meeting at the last commissioners meeting for architecture services. And I didn't even understand what, but they seem to be ongoing.
Yes, and so the council over the past 2 or 3 years began saving for the jail project, and we had saved up at some point. We accumulated about $2 million that we had allocated for the jail project. It was, I believe it was $2 million. It might have been $1.5 million, but it was a significant amount that we put in there. And then that current balance is down to 1.1 million. So that's for everything that we've spent thus far on the jail project. We've been using those dollars that we'd saved, and those dollars are going into plans primarily, surveying, and things of that nature. That if we did put the jail on hold, we would still have equity in those assets or in those resources that we've put together.
So, we've been talking for 20 minutes already.
Wow.
And the last question I've asked everybody is, why are you a better choice for the voters to choose rather than someone else who's running? I mean, you have 6 people running for 3 positions.
Yeah.
3 incumbents and 3 new ones. So why are you a better choice?
No, I appreciate that question. You know, obviously being out talking to people, it comes up a lot. The thing that I really want to portray to the voters and the residents of this county is that I have worked incredibly hard for the people of the county, and that is both in my capacity as a county councilman, educating myself, going to conventions, educational opportunities across the state to learn how to do this job in the best manner possible. And knowing isn't necessarily doing, however. And I believe that my record stands for itself in terms of making sound financial decisions. I am proud to say that I don't tell everybody yes that comes and asks for money. When there are things that come up, we make sure that services are delivered to the county in the best way possible. But we run a pretty tight ship. And you know, under the last 2 years as president, I'm pretty proud of the budgets that we've put forward, the investments that we've made into public safety, the investments that we have made into keeping our residents safe, our paramedics and EMTs, the technology that we've given them, and all the while keeping our expenditures under our revenues for those periods. So I would say to the voters that I'm a proven commodity, and that that I will continue to keep my promises and do what I said I would do. Make sure that taxes are kept as low as possible, and that every dollar that we send out will be scrutinized and looked hard and put to work for the taxpayer.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Deb.